Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
That kid is back on the escalator again.
Ain't gonna hurt.
Here's my boomstick!
Game over, man. It's game over.
Welcome to The Bargain Bin. He is your host, Ben Mason.
And he is your co-host, Sandra Luketic. And today we're talking 2005's Cursed. We assume if you're listening to this episode, you have already seen the movie. All right, buddy. My dream team is back now. We got director Wes Craven, and we've got writer Kevin Williamson. The Scream team, if you will. Making a movie about my favorite monster, the werewolf.
Okay.
Any thoughts going into this?
I think if you're going to be shouting out director, writer, and monster movie type, you got to shout out the cast too.
All right, man. I was going to leave that till later on, but do you want to go through this stellar cast?
I'm not going to go through it, but just
toss some names out there.
Yeah, Joshua Jackson, Christina Ricci, Jesse Eisenberg, small appearance by Nick Offerman. Hell, Scott Baio shows up, right? So there is definitely a lot of names attached to it, but we'll get into that more detailed stuff after.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give it a shout out. That's all. Why don't we hop into the plot?
All right. Well, the film opens at night during a fair, I guess, some sort of fair on the water, where Bowling for Soup are performing the worst cover of Little Red Riding Hood I have ever heard. The original song by Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs is one of my favorite songs of all time, so anybody covering it is just not going to live up to the original. Do you know this song at all?
Yeah. What fair carnival did they have bands like this playing?
I have no idea.
It's like they couldn't decide. Do we want it to be a concert or do we want it to be a carnival?
Yeah. Also, I feel like I should have heard of Bowling for Soup before, but I just haven't. Oh, wait, no, that's not true. There is one song they have about Alexa Bliss, which is quite entertaining.
I knew about them before. They've had a few tracks. Enough so that, I didn't need to be told or look up who it was. When I saw that they were performing a song that's not traditionally their song, I still knew exactly who it was.
Okay. Well, they're consistent. If you want to hear that song used well in a movie, check out Bruce Willis in Striking Distance. Great mystery from the early 90s, I think.
Oh.
Anyway.
Okay.
Jenny and Becky are walking along the boardwalk talking about a guy that Becky is, quote, highly interested in. The girls stop at Zella's fortune teller stand, the point being that Jenny wants Zella to convince Becky to forget about this guy. Instead, Zella reads the palms of both girls, declaring she sees blood and that they're both in danger and should fear the beast.
That is a jump. That is a jump. Hey, can you tell my friend not to be interested in this guy? You're gonna die. Okay.
Understandably, it freaks them out and causes Jenny to storm off. Becky hangs back to scold Zella before trying to follow her friend, but loses her in the crowd.
What is this? She scolds her because, you didn't tell us what we wanted to hear. She says something stupid, you can't talk to people like that. It's why? What did she say? She didn't offend you. She's just telling you bad news. Bad news isn't offensive.
From a fortune teller.
Yeah, it's bad news. A bit of a jump.
Yeah, although we should say, too, right at the very beginning, we've got a band that supposedly is popular. I don't know. Then we have
they had their 15 minutes of fame. 15 minutes of fame.
Sure. Oh, you knew who they were.
Yeah.
It's Maya, I don't know who she is, but I recognize her. Shannon Elizabeth, I think everybody recognizes. And Portia de Rossi, who I knew from Scream 2. Most people probably know from Arrested Development or being the partner of Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah. Can I clarify that not everybody's going to know who Shannon Elizabeth is? Only people from a specific 5-year period?
I guess.
What has she done since this?
Oh God, I don't know.
Exactly.
I can only really name 2 other movies that she was in, and one of them was massive, and the other one was so bad it was amazing.
There you go. So not everybody's going to know who she is.
Everybody's seen American Pie.
Okay, not everybody.
Most people have seen American Pie.
From
and
our
more
generation.
People should watch Jack Frost.
From our generation. Yo, she was also in 13 Ghosts.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that one.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Okay.
Yeah. At the gift shop of the Hollywood Wax Museum, Jose and Brooke are closing up for the night. Zipper, a golden retriever, wanders in, followed by his owner, Jimmy Myers. The name's got to be a Halloween reference, right? Jimmy apologizes for his dog going into the store and awkwardly points out that he and Brooke are in a few of the same classes together. She has no idea who he is.
Very
Bo,
awkwardly. I thought it was kind of cute bumbly.
kind of, yeah. But what drove that home for me was right here when her boyfriend, Bo, shows up and calls out Jimmy, immediately demonstrating his place as a school asshole. And there's so many gay jokes in this scene. But when Brooke tries to introduce Jimmy to Bo as Billy, I was like, all right, yeah, that seals it right there. I mean, that's a classic trope. Like the nerdy kid who's obsessed with the popular girl. The popular girl pretends she knows who he is and gets his name all wrong.
Not only that, we hear the like almost entirely cliche, I sit behind you in X class. Yup.
Ellie Myers. Actually, we should say who plays Jimmy here.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg. And Bo? Milo. I forget his last name. It starts with a V, and he was in Heroes.
I was going to say I can't pronounce the last name. So, yeah, that guy.
And Brooke, I forget her name.
It's Christina Anna Powell, if I pronounce that correctly. I hate trying to pronounce last names I don't know.
Ellie Myers, the Christina Ricci, Jimmy's sister, is on the way to Tinsel to see her boyfriend Jake when Jimmy calls asking where she is. At this point, I'm not entirely sure what Tinsel is, but the amount of amazing horror shit here is wicked.
I thought it was supposed to be like a horror museum, because
right?
There's the scene where she says Planet Hollywood, and he rejects that. Like, well, we don't say that around here.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Right? Like, kind of like Planet Hollywood is always kind of more like leaning towards action-based memorabilia, right?
Yeah, pretty
because
much.
of obvious reasons, its owners and things like that.
Yeah.
So I felt like this is the horror equivalent, and that's why we don't want to say it, because that's more of a competition. But
yeah,
it's not.
Sign me up for that shit if that were the case.
Yeah, I'd go check it out. I mean, not in this particular time frame, but I would go check it out when there's no werewolves.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. I might tempt fate.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, this is where we meet Jake, played by Joshua Jackson, and he shows Ellie all of the displays they have set up for the opening, which has a wicked Nightmare on Elm Street display in the background of that scene. I don't know if you noticed, which is a really nice nod to the director.
No. There's a lot. There's a lot to
Freddy
observe.
Krueger in front of the house and everything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ellie implies they should spend the next few days together, but Jake just wants to disappear for the next 3 days. They've been kissing a lot in the scene, and it seems like he doesn't want to be around her, but still likes her. So, did they give everything away right here? Like, the first time I saw this movie, I called this out specifically.
I definitely focused on it, but probably not for the same reasons as you, as I'm assuming you're basing it on foreshadowing.
Yeah.
For me, it was just the regular flow of the conversation didn't make sense. He flat out tells her, I've been so stressed trying to get this opening ready. I forget what he says, like 3 days from opening or something like that. And once this is all over, I'm just going to sleep for like a week. Right?
Yep.
And then she's just, is everything all right? He just told you. And then he goes on to say like, oh yeah, everything's fine, but maybe we need a little bit of space. You just finished saying you're stressed out. You've been working 12-hour days on this thing that's open. Like, what's with the leaps in this movie?
Yeah.
Just constant assumptions.
But then she does follow up with, like, call me when you feel like it. No pressure. Like, well, she seemed pretty invested a second ago. And now is this just her being like, it doesn't really feel like there's any attitude behind it. She sounds honest, not hurt by any means, that it doesn't really fit with how she was acting just a second ago.
Go back and watch the scene, and the quote-unquote trigger that makes her concerned that something's not right with their relationship is nothing. Nothing. I even had to rewind it and be like, did he make a face? Did he push her away? Nope.
Same.
I
did the same thing.
Yeah. Bad writing. Even when she said, call me when you're ready, in my mind, okay, in 3 days, when this thing is open, and he's done what he just finished saying he was going to do.
There are massive problems with the writing, which we'll talk about after we go through the plot. But when you know this and then watch the movie, it all makes so much sense. But at the same time, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to like Jake or dislike Jake, because he kind of seemed like an asshole, but he also seemed genuine. And I feel that comes up repeatedly throughout the movie.
And that's the exact thing. He seems a little bit standoffish, yes, but they give an absolutely legitimate reason for it. He is trying to essentially what seems like open this thing all by himself, because he's managing the whole thing, and he's on a deadline for 3 more days. Okay?
Yeah.
Anyway, moving forward.
Later that night, Ellie, Jimmy, and Zipper are driving home along Mulholland Drive. The siblings argue before something jumps in front of the car, hitting the windshield and sending them into oncoming traffic. They hit another car, knocking it off the road, through the guardrail, and rolling down an embankment.
Can I say that I was maybe mistakenly focused on how late Christina Ricci was, Ellie, to picking up her brother?
Like an hour, was it?
Well, yeah. And he calls her to say, are you coming? I'm waiting, type thing, as she's walking in to see Jake. Not like she's on her way out. It's not like she's in the middle of the conversation with Jake and she has to interrupt this awkward moment because her phone rings and her brother calls and says, where are you? I've been waiting. She's only beginning her visit. What a jerk sister.
Well, we also see later on that her job demands punctuality.
Yep.
Okay. Ellie tells Jimmy to find her cell phone and call for help while she goes to check on the driver. The driver, now stuck upside down in the car, is Becky from the beginning of the film. Jimmy struggles with cell reception, but eventually gets through to emergency. And down at the car, Ellie thinks she hears something, but sees nothing in the woods. Jimmy crawls into the car and helps free Becky from her seatbelt, just as an animal rips her out of the car. Jimmy grabs a hold of her feet, and Ellie grabs a hold of Jimmy, and the 3 of them are dragged deeper into the woods. I was okay with the scene. I really liked it. I thought it had a decent amount of tension.
It absolutely did. It really created like a foreboding. And when Christina Ricci's character is looking past the car, kind of with concern and telling Jimmy to hurry up, it really does build up what's going to happen. Yeah.
I was very happy with that scene. Now, unfortunately, the next scene doesn't really work for me. Well, it did. I started watching the uncensored version. And then I realized that you had the regular one. So I stopped that and started the regular edit that was released in theaters. And this scene has a major difference in it.
Okay.
The animal scratches and bites at the brother and sister before ripping Becky away from them and running into the trees. And after that, it cuts to emergency services who are on the site now. In between that, like in the uncensored version, Jimmy and Ellie are running back up towards the road, and all of a sudden, Becky's torso is thrown out of the forest at them, almost hitting them, and we see Becky's still alive, and like she's absolutely horrified, and then bleeds to death.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, I didn't see that in this version.
Well, I don't know what version I watched.
Are there 3 versions? Okay, all right, never mind.
I don't know what version I watched, but I definitely saw her in half, crawling.
Yeah, and that's what I saw on my DVD of this one, but not the Blu-ray. The other DVD I have. Emergency services are now on site. Ron Swanson is interviewing the 2, asking how the animal could bite and scratch them, but they never got a look at it. Jimmy says,
I was really happy to see Nick Offerman. I don't care how minor of a role it is.
I don't really know him from much, and I never watched Parks and Rec.
Well, that's probably why.
But I feel like he's a big enough celebrity that he's been in enough things. I just don't know how I've missed him so many times.
Yeah, it is what it is. It was still like a portion of the movie. He's not in barely anything, so it's It's a cameo. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't, right?
Yeah. It was also 16 years ago. God knows where he was in his career.
Exactly.
Jimmy says it looked like a monster wolf, but Swanson shrugs it out. I'm just calling him Swanson. Shrugs it off. There hasn't been a wolf sighting in the area in over 70 years, so it must have been a mountain lion or a bear. Jimmy goes to check on Zipper in the car, but the poor pup wants none of it, and the scared dog bites Jimmy's hand before being scolded.
Yeah, that was a little weird, but...
It was a little weird.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's shoehorned in for sure. They could have done something a little bit better to work that element in. The police drop them off at home. Zipper is hesitant to enter, but then books it upstairs. Jimmy's ready to crash, but Ellie wants to talk about what happened. They were attacked and saw a girl get torn apart. Now, this is what really troubled me, because as we've established, there's a third version, which I saw.
Okay.
Where we don't see the fact that Becky was torn apart whatsoever. So including this line in that edit makes no sense.
Okay.
Anyway, there's more...
Again, it made sense to me because I saw it, but I only watched one version.
Yeah, I know, but if you take that scene of her torso out, all they know is that she got attacked and dragged away. There's more sibling bickering before Jimmy walks upstairs. Ellie locks up before staring at a picture of her, Jimmy, and their parents. Since they live together, we're left to assume that the parents died. I don't remember that coming up in conversation yet at this point.
Not at this time.
No. In his room, Jimmy is using his wicked iMac to search wolf sightings in LA and discovers a page documenting unsolved animal attacks. He slowly begins to believe that the animal may have been a werewolf.
What a hacking job he did. He clicked a link, and somehow nobody else is stumbling upon this.
The next scene's a weird one.
Okay.
But it writes itself, so I don't feel so bad. It just seems like a weird swerve to make. Ellie double-checks the locks downstairs and finds an open window that she had closed earlier. Searching the main level of the house, she's spooked by a wolf cuckoo clock, which also seems coincidental.
Why would you have that?
I don't know. I've never seen it before. And yeah. Returning to the hallway, she sees that the front door is wide open. She turns around and is scared by Jake, who is right behind her. He apologizes about before, and they both confess how much they truly care about each other. Ellie's afraid because all of the good things in her life go away. And Jake promises her that he isn't going anywhere. One place he should go is to the end of the hall and close the fucking door.
Even if we're to believe that he came into her house uninvited, essentially,
yeah,
why would you just leave the door open? You walk in, even if you're not supposed to be there, you close the door.
Well, it doesn't make sense because the door's locked. So what happened is he somehow pried open the window, climbed through that, left it open, walked over, unlocked the door, opened the door, left that open, and snuck around behind her.
Yep.
Anyway, they make out. And she then bites his neck and has crazy werewolf visions before waking up and revealing it was all a nightmare. I will now allow the door being left open in that scene.
How many horror tropes have we seen already?
A handful at minimum.
Yep. Let's keep going. Let's find them all.
Even this one. Jimmy wakes up naked outside his house, startles his neighbor, then climbs up the side of the house and back into his room. This is David Naughton's character from An American Werewolf in London waking up naked in the wolf pen at the zoo.
Yeah, and why is he naked in the lawn?
Yeah, and if they're going to make it something as major as him being naked anywhere, why would it just be outside the house?
But are we to believe that he has already transformed once? That first night?
We have no reason to believe that.
Exactly. Why is he outside naked already? Maybe later in the movie when he starts feeling more of it.
It's the edit. 100% it's the edit, man.
Okay, keep going.
Ellie makes coffee while watching the morning news covering the accident from the night before. A fly has been buzzing around her this whole time, and she catches it Karate Kid style, showing her heightening reflexes. Jimmy comes downstairs and tells her he woke up in the bushes, then grabs a container of meat from the fridge and starts snacking. Neither of them find this weird, and then Ellie joins in.
I could not figure out... I'm trying to look at the scene. I'm trying to look at the container. At first, I was thinking, is it just like cold cuts, right?
I thought it was raw meat.
I was on the fence about it, and I thought perhaps it was raw meat, but then it could also be maybe dried meat, right?
It could be. Yeah, they do. I don't know. Maybe that's the point, is to make us question it. It just kind of seemed muddled.
Right, like you look at a piece of like prosciutto or whatever, right? It can look pretty real or like raw, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe they're doing a general, like, okay, this time it's kind of dried meats, and then later it's raw meats. And they're going to kind of show a slow change towards it. But they don't really make it clear, and at no point do they question it.
No, your idea would have made much more sense.
All right, well, there we are. He makes sure to salt it. I guess that's something.
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
At work, Ellie is hit on by Lex Luthor. Kyle, played by Michael Rosenbaum.
Our second Lex Luthor, because we've seen Jesse Eisenberg already.
Ah, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just him, though. The whole office notices there's something different about her. Her boss, Joni, played by Judy Greer, asks her if everything will be ready for Scott's pre-interview, and then says she heard Ellie's dating Jake Taylor. Joni says it was only a matter of time before Jake got to Ellie. After all, he, quote, always did prefer the vulnerable ones. Now we get a bit of an idea about who the real Jake is, I think. Or we're led to believe, anyway. Ellie uncomfortably excuses herself from the conversation and goes to her office.
Okay, I like the beginning of this scene.
Yeah, me too.
Because she's really not dressed in any extraordinary way or done up or anything. And it's meant to play up kind of like the sexual magnetism of becoming a werewolf.
Yeah.
That was done really well. But then the whole Jake thing just fell flat for me.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like an insignificant discussion to have.
Yep.
We know eventually it's not really the case, but they could have written it better.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we will get into the problems with the writing.
I thought we were already getting into them, but do go on.
Oh, no, why? Why we have problems with the writing.
Oh, okay.
Kyle pops up into her office, and the two chat about Jake and Joni, and Kyle reminds Ellie that Jake isn't the only guy in town. Did he come across really, really creepy here to you?
Yep.
Yeah, super creepy. Ellie stands up asking what smells so good and follows the scent to the break room, where it's revealed that one of her coworkers is having a serious nosebleed. Pretty cool scene. I liked it.
It was.
Although she had to go pretty far to get to that break room.
Yeah.
So we're led to believe she has an incredibly heightened sense of smell, and that's it so far? At school, Jimmy helps Brooke grab some food from the vending machine. They're interrupted by Bo and his gang. He asks Jim if he's trying out for the wrestling team, and then goes back to making gay jokes. Jimmy turns one around on Bo. Brooke likes it, but Bo's ready for a throwdown. They all walk off and throw another joke Jimmy's way.
Too many.
There's way too many gay jokes in this movie.
Way too many. I get what they were foreshadowing, but
I feel like even in 2005, though, like the amount of gay jokes in this movie it belongs in like mid to late 80s horror, not early 2000s horror.
And even then, I would say they need to be spaced out a little bit more. There's just way too much all at once.
Yeah. No, it's I understand we're supposed to dislike the Bo character, but we're not. I don't think we're supposed to hate him this much, especially with how they use his character further into the film.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's short-sighted. It seems too much.
Well, it's nighttime now. At a weird masquerade costume social event, I guess, Ellie runs into Jake. I had to look into it. Apparently it's a PETA event, but I don't remember that being specified.
I have no idea. All I knew was that she was going somewhere to meet with Scott.
Yeah. She's confused as to why he's at a party when he said he wanted to hide for a few days, and then tosses out reasons why it's okay if they don't work out. Jake cuts her off and asks to talk in private. He explains that in the past he would take off whenever anything got too serious, but he doesn't want to do that with her. Just then, Jenny steps in front of Ellie and greets Jake, reminding him of her name and that she's Becky Morton's friend. So now we know that Jake really is social, quote unquote, I guess.
So I had a few problems with this scene. The first and probably biggest being that he says, "Can we talk in private?" And they commence to take 5 steps over. You're still in the middle of the party. You didn't go to a room in the house or an empty corridor. You just took 5 steps over. Now we're having our private conversation.
And that's where Joni interrupts the 3 of them.
Yes, and obviously it's quite private because they're in an area where Jenny and Joni can both just interfere. Like that. Because we're in the middle of a crowd. And then Ellie gets mad at Jake for having this past social life mere minutes after him admitting to having this past social life and saying that that's not him anymore and he deserves a second chance and he's changed.
And he wants this relationship to actually matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like she didn't even hear that.
Yeah, but I could totally understand when already Joni's thrown out the idea that Jake's a player, and then Jenny basically states it right in front of Ellie that Jake knows both her and Becky, and Becky can't stop talking about him.
Well, she ain't talking about him now.
Yeah. Well, this is right after we find out that Ellie and Jake have been together for, a couple of months, right?
Yeah.
It's not explicitly stated, but are we to believe that he's still sleeping around the way everyone else is talking? Because the way that Jenny is interacting with Jake, it feels like the last time they talked was not that long ago. But he and Ellie have been together for a few months, so I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if we're supposed to get any sort of time frame for this.
Okay. I don't know. It's confusing, unnecessarily confusing. It could have been cleared up in one line of dialogue.
Well, unnecessary is completely accurate because it really doesn't have a bearing on what's happening here.
No. Jake tells Jenny he's off the market and she flirts with him saying now she's bummed. And I really don't like Jake's creepy smile here because that just adds to the belief that he might actually be an asshole.
But Ellie has already walked away. He doesn't have to say, "I'm off the market" at this point.
No, I know, but he could have also just said that and walked away, not stay there and respond to it positively for her.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, back with Ellie, we find out that Scott is actually Scott Baio, and the pre-interview is to set him up for the actual interview with Craig Kilborn. And this is where I first discovered that she actually worked on Kilborn's show. Because I feel like that wasn't really mentioned either. They were just throwing out names like Scott and Craig.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the first time I realized that she worked for Craig Kilborn.
So, we didn't know what tinsel was. And for the most part, I still think we don't. They've called it something later in the movie, but that doesn't make sense. We've already been at Ellie's work for a while. We've met co-workers. They're throwing names around like we know who they are, but they still don't tell us, and then we just have to figure it out for ourselves. Which is really strange, because Craig Kilborn was a name at this time.
Yes. Not at the time of the release of this movie, as he had already lost his job, but yes.
That went to Ferguson, right?
Yep.
Oh, I love Craig Ferguson.
During production. So they filmed this when he was still part of the show, and then by the time the movie finally came out, he had been replaced.
Sandro, you're making it sound like there have been production issues.
Don't know what you're talking about, dude.
Well, I'm talking about how Baio's not happy that he's on after Ashton Kutcher and Carrot Top.
I mean, I would be all right being behind Ashton Kutcher because he's, at the time especially, the bigger star. But yeah, I might have had a problem coming after Carrot Top.
I think this might be the second Wes Craven movie that I know of that has Happy Days alum on it.
Sure.
Yeah, Henry Winkler in Scream as the principal. Ellie notices the moon is full and immediately throws on the charm, which was odd. Baio's into it. He compliments her aura and then puts his hand on her leg, and she bails immediately. Looking across the party, she sees Jake surrounded by 3 women, one of which he kisses on the cheek. Baio tries his chances again, but Ellie leaves. Jake runs over to call her, or runs over to her, sorry, and she calls him out on his womanizing ways. He tells her that that was a previous life and to trust him. She's not having it and takes off. So this goes back to what you were saying before about how he's trying to convince her that he's a different person.
He's not even hiding it. He's flat out saying, yes, this was me, but I'm trying to be a different person. Oh, we don't believe in second chances? Okay.
But what he was doing over there directly contradicts what he's trying to convince her of.
I got a bit of a different impression. It really did seem to me like he was being bombarded by these women so much as him trying to get their attention.
Well, he didn't leave. This whole time that Ellie and Scott were talking, he's been in the exact same spot. And now he's just talking with different women.
I got the impression that he was trying to push through them to get to Ellie when he saw that she was leaving. So, I don't know. It's a quicker cut and it's hard to say.
Yeah. In the parkade, Ellie gets into the car and drives off as what were believed to be an animal approaches from behind. The elevator door opens, drawing the animal's attention, and Becky appears. On the walk to the car, she notices human footprints that change into large canine prints, which should be terrifying, but she kind of chuckles at it. Arriving at her vehicle, she's grabbed from behind by the werewolf, which then throws her over multiple vehicles and sends her crashing to the ground. This scene is terrible.
Why did he throw her?
I don't know. There is so much throwing in this movie.
If the intention is to kill or eat or whatever,
yeah,
creating distance between them is counterproductive.
Not just distance, but obstacles in between them.
Sure.
The next part of the scene, though, I really did enjoy. It's like the cat and mouse chase where Becky makes it back into the elevator. And it gets stuck between floors.
I want to point out that I did think it was a little clever when she took off the shoes and was standing on kind of like I don't know what you would call it, like the step on the Jeep.
Yeah.
Right? Just to try and hide. It wasn't the same stupid run and hide or like it was a little bit more clever. Not a lot, but I'll give it a little bit of a shout out.
Oh yeah, they definitely gave the character a little bit more credibility.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the elevator, the doors have opened about a foot of space from the floor below. The wolf's arms are swiping angrily through the space, which I thought was pretty good as they're trying to grab her. And then all of a sudden it stops. And this is my favorite part of the scene. The arms are gone. Becky looks through the elevator doors and sees the door to the stairwell swinging closed.
Yeah.
I loved it. She slowly opens the doors to the upper floor to see if the wolf is there. But if she knows that's where the wolf is going, why pry the doors open for it?
Exactly.
Because, surprise, the wolf is there and it kills her. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
They give us the idea that she's got her wherewithal to hide her feet in case it looks underneath the cars and sees where she is. But then she opens up the doors, allowing it access to her only safe space, and it gets her.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid.
Back at the Myers house, Jimmy's reading a book about how to kill werewolves. He sees an illustration of a hand with 5 points on it that make a pentagram, and he realizes he has the same anomaly on his palm. Ellie arrives at the house, and Kevin Williamson cleverly writes in a new twist on how to kill the creatures. You actually have to separate the head from the body. Silver just hurts it a lot.
I was okay with that.
I'm okay with that too. Jimmy's becoming more sold on the idea of werewolves existing, and Ellie is not. We see that Ellie also has the 5 points on her palm, and all of this happened the day after the accident. That's a full day when you think what happened between the accident and where we are right now. A lot of shit has gone down.
Yep.
Later that night, Jimmy is in his room reading an issue of the comic book Wolf Squad, and I really wanted this book to be real. I love the art in it. We need more werewolf comic books. And
was it?
No.
No.
It was not. If you look up Wolf Squad, it's like a child's comic.
Well, there you go.
Dogs in the neighborhood are barking outside of his window. He yells at them to shut up and then howls, which sends the dogs running off into the night. It's bad.
Did not like this scene.
I didn't like it either. Like, there's some good elements to this movie so far, but then they're just drowned out with stupidity.
Yeah.
The next morning, the siblings are both in the bathroom mirror, taking much more interest in their appearances. And Jimmy's hair is straight now.
Yep.
We don't see him doing it. It just is.
Exactly.
With the writing that we've been given to this point, I could easily see them just being like, it's him slowly turning into a werewolf and not he did it in the off time.
I feel like it's more that could have been intentional to show that he was creating a bit more confidence to, contradict the bumbly nerd that he was earlier.
Yeah. But it could be. I mean, it could also just be shitty writing.
Oh, it's most definitely a combination of both.
Ellie reminds Jimmy that she's walking Kilborn down the red carpet at the opening of Tinsel that night. Also, Tinsel's a stupid fucking name, man.
I mean,
if I were Jake, I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to do this amazing horror setup. What screams horror and socially? Tinsel.
It was a Christmas village he was opening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So name makes sense. Tinsel. It's a common garnish for Christmas decorations.
So stupid. At work, Ellie asks Kyle what's up with the gypsies hanging around and is told they're auditioning for a segment on the show. One of the gypsies is Zella from the beginning of the film, who senses there's something wrong about Ellie. She runs over and tells her she's in danger. Ellie's annoyed that Zella would talk to her, but Zella tries to warn her again, telling her she bears the mark of the beast, is infected, and they'll come looking for her. The beast is human too, and it's closer to her than she thinks. I love when she just starts taking off her theatrical garb of sorts, just trying to be like, look, this is all for show. This is really happening. Look after yourself.
Yeah, still comes off as the ramblings of a psycho.
Oh yeah, definitely crazy. Wrestling practice at the high school gym. Jimmy jumps over a railing onto the bleachers, catching everyone's attention, and walks over to talk to Brooke. Bo is not a fan of this and goes over to break it up and sets up for another gay joke, but Jimmy turns it around on him, saying all this internalized homophobia is giving him away. The coach breaks up the conversation, and Bo says Jimmy's there to try out for the team. After getting roughed up by one guy, Jimmy gets more aggressive and beats him up, and then he and Bo get at it, and almost none of this is acceptable high school wrestling and mainly pro wrestling moves.
Yeah, this scene didn't do it for me, man.
It's very, very early 2000s. So I can't blame it for just being bad. I can blame it for being more of the same in a horrible, horrible time for film. Ellie is prepping Kilborn before going on stage. They go through the rundown. Bayo's bumped off the show by Carrot Top.
If he was pissed that he had to go after him, just imagine his reaction when he finds out he's been bumped.
Kilborn then cuts his finger, but there aren't any tissues around, so Ellie sucks the blood off his finger and sends him out in front of the crowd. She lingers for a second before becoming embarrassed and goes outside for air. Joni tracks her down and yells at her for Scott being bumped. Ellie apologizes and tries to leave, but Joni grabs her by the arm. Ellie spins around and yells at her before storming off.
Okay. This didn't make sense to me in that, does Joni work with Ellie or for Scott? Because if she works...
At the end, it's revealed that she's the publicist.
Because if she works for the same company, i.e. the Craig Kilborn show, she would know that it was not Ellie that cut based on time restraints.
Yeah. And also, I get the feeling that Ellie is an assistant for Kilborn and has no say as to what he does. She's just responsible to get him to where he needs to be, knowing what he needs to know.
Yep.
It was also a really weird attempt at giving Ellie more character development, I found. That she's getting more and more willing to stand up to Joni, who she shouldn't even really have to stand up to in the first place.
No, she's developing a little bit more of a backbone, much like...
Exactly. Much like Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of... Oh, wait, no, I jumped ahead there. Sorry. Ellie when she stormed off, she actually went into the bathroom where she's hearing voices. When one of her coworkers enters, she runs into a stall. It's just a weird throwaway scene to show the audience that Ellie's changing. Like when the coworker asks if she's okay, pushing the door open to check on her, Ellie stops it and like squeezes the door with her fingers to the point where it causes her fingers to bleed and she's actually pressing them into the metal of the door.
This is the same coworker that was bleeding that smelled so good.
Yeah. Anyway, Ellie screams to be left alone as we see her eyes change and she slams the door shut. Throwaway scene. We didn't need it. We didn't need any of that. We already know what's happening. I don't understand why that was even included. Had the running time, maybe? But yeah, Jimmy. That's what I wanted to talk about. Jimmy goes to Tinsel to talk with Jake. He says that things are different with he and Ellie since that night, but Jake has no idea what he's talking about. And then I thought about it. I really don't remember Ellie mentioning anything about the accident, which you think would have come up at the PETA event. Right?
I guess.
Because like he comes across as being very shocked.
I really
but then,
don't.
Yeah.
I don't
know.
I don't know, man.
But he's only shocked about the accident because Jimmy tells him about that and Becky being killed by an animal that he thinks is a werewolf. He says it attacked them too, and since then they've been changing. And at this point, Jake doesn't seem to be too bothered about this anymore. Also, the term cursed is used way too much in this movie.
Is Jake supposed to be the werewolf that attacked?
That's what I thought from the very beginning. About him wanting time away and everything.
Well, if there was going to be a full moon and he was going to try and protect himself from the full moon.
Yes, right?
But then why would
But he didn't leave, though, because then there was the shock that Ellie had because he's like, oh, you're still here.
I don't know. I don't know, man.
It could have been him in the woods. I thought it was him the whole time. So, obviously, I was horribly let down when there was the actual reveal. Back at the Myers house, Jimmy opens a raw steak and is about to take a bite of it until we hear Zipper whine. He's in the corner of the kitchen, hiding under the table. Jimmy throws a steak onto a plate, goes for a steak knife, before changing his mind and picking up a silver cake server. I don't know if he was doing it just to test the silver, or if he was going to try and cut the steak with the cake server.
I feel like
I imagine it was because it's silver, but the way it was filmed and played out made it look like he second-guessed using a steak knife on the steak.
I got the impression that he then saw it, and not that he was going to try and cut the steak with it, but that it caught his eye, and he was like, I'm curious enough to try and test this out now.
Yeah, and I am hoping that's what it was. I'm just saying, to me, that's not how it was filmed.
Okay, fair.
It just makes sense. It makes sense that he would see it and try and test it. Silver burns his hand immediately. There's a knock on the door, and it's Bo. He wants to talk with Jimmy about what he said at school that day, about how he knew when nobody else did, but it makes sense because it takes one to know one, and then he tries to kiss Jimmy. Jimmy says he's a werewolf, and the attraction must be an unnatural sexual allure, and goes inside, leaving Bo on the front step.
You forgot when he says that it's an unnatural sex appeal or whatever. Bo's response is like, "Oh, I know."
Yeah. How do you feel about Bo at this moment?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I think we're supposed to like him, and I kind of do. But we have never been given the chance to warm up to him. He's just done a complete character 180.
If the idea was to create this insulting jock jerk type persona in order to then show his vulnerability and make him seem like a sympathetic character after, there wasn't enough development for the sympathetic side.
There was none. We were led to hate him. We were made to hate him every time we saw him on screen.
Yep.
Except for this one time.
Not even a hint of like foreshadowing where maybe when Jimmy says something like the turnaround comment in the gym, maybe the camera pans over and you see that he kind of looks concerned for a second and then shakes out of it like, oh no.
Yeah, wavers the brow or something.
Yeah, something. But they just didn't build it up.
Because if they did build it up, this would be an amazing character turn for him.
Yep.
Milo is an amazing actor. He plays this really well, but the writing was lacking. The footage is lacking. So what could have been an amazing character turn is completely flat.
Yep, I agree.
Inside, Jimmy picks up the family photo in the silver frame. Well, what he was told was silver by his sister anyway, but nothing happens. Turns it around and discovers the frame is actually stainless steel. In the kitchen, Zipper has knocked the plate off the floor or onto the floor and grabbed the steak, takes it under the dining table and starts to gnaw away at it. Jimmy tries to take it back from him, but Zipper has gone full were-dog at this point. More knocking at the door, and it's Bo, who won't leave. Zipper attacks him, and they both run to Bo's car and speed off.
Okay. What the hell is this idea with Zipper?
I don't know.
So we're to believe
I'm completely lost.
Believe that Zipper got cursed when he bit Jimmy at the accident scene.
Yeah, because he says he must have infected Zipper when he bit him.
So, in essence, he started turning at the same time as Jimmy and Ellie, and yet reacted to them negatively for a large period of time, as if like they were showing, like even with Jimmy howling at the dogs outside, that canines had like a sense towards this and that they were standoffish towards it.
Yeah.
But in this case, Zipper is one of their own.
Mm-hmm.
It's bullshit.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, keep going.
In the car, the two of them set out to find Ellie at Tinsel. And this is where we're told it's a nightclub. Okay.
When did you get that impression at any point prior in the movie that it would be a nightclub?
There is none.
There's no floor space. There's no bar. It was just...
There's all floor space. That's it. There is no bar. It looks like a museum.
Yes. Come on, push through, man. We're getting there.
Ellie is still in her office at night and overhears a news report about wild animals killing people. Photos of Jenny and Becky are shown on screen, and the deaths are said to be connected. Ellie tells Kyle she has to go home and that he has to cover for her. She gets in her car, and we get a jump scare of Jake running up to her window. He's upset, and he's upset that she isn't returning his calls. She points out that Becky and Jenny are dead, and he knew both of them. He says he can explain everything, but Ellie rolls up her window, and he gets ready to drive off. Jake slams his hand against the window, and Ellie sees the pentagram on his palm. He smacks the window again, and it shatters. Reaching through the window, he takes the keys out of the ignition and tells Ellie to get out of the car. He apologizes about the window and tries to explain what's going on.
He stays quite calm in this entire
I'm okay
thing.
with that.
And
I'm
even
totally okay with that.
I was even okay with the window breaking because he maintained control, and it was more one of those... It's even like the kind of thing where you would think perhaps he just turned as well at some point, and he hasn't learned how to harness his abilities because he didn't realize a show of strength.
Yeah, he's trying to like rein everything back.
But again, she wants nothing to do with him, which, again, we know things that the character didn't at the time, but at the time, she wants nothing to do with him, despite the fact that it's quite the leap to assume that there's anything to be, like, timid about. I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. He tells her that what attacked her in the canyon wasn't an animal. She should know because... or she should know what it was because she's feeling the changes. He puts her hand on her shoulder, and she stabs him with her car key, and then jumps in the car and speeds off. I understand why everything happened in this scene, but it feels like we should have gone into it a little bit more, because it seems very quick, the reactions made by Ellie to everything that Jake says.
There are drastic leaps in, like, logic.
Anyway, it's the red carpet at Tinsel. We get to see the quality of the club as the first guest to arrive is Lance Bass. Jimmy... I mean, they could have had somebody else, right?
I don't care who it is, but this nightclub we didn't know about has a red carpet opening?
Yeah.
And yet...
Well...
Nobody's talking about it?
That's where Ellie's supposed to walk Kilborn down the red carpet there.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
Especially considering the fact that at the beginning of the movie, she does this big leap of, why is Jake so distant? Apparently, he's opening a nightclub that's going to have a red carpet opening. We have now increased the stakes, making her leap in logic even more ridiculous.
Yeah. Not only is he stressed about opening the club, but it's a club where at the opening, she has to escort her boss, who is famous, into the club.
I feel like they both have enough knowledge of each other to see the gravity of this opening. And no, I'm not going to keep getting caught up on that stupid logic. Go.
Jimmy and Bo sneak in as part of Lance Bass's entourage. Inside, Jimmy calls Ellie and tells her he's at the club. She says she's on her way home, and Jimmy warns her not to go because of the infected Zipper. And, he's gone full werewolf. Ellie admits she believes Jimmy's werewolf theory. She tells Jimmy that Jake was the one who infected them. Sure. Jimmy's instructed to find Kyle and be careful because Jake will definitely be there. They end the call and Jake is standing right next to Jimmy asking if he's seen Ellie because he really needs to talk to her. And now there's a note I made here that just says, is it me or does Jake actually seem genuine and not a complete asshole now? Or am I getting played like he played all those women?
At this point in the movie, I have yet to see any reason to suspect him or dislike him. He's done nothing.
Well, he's interrupted by Joni, who wants to introduce him to Scott Baio. Scotty's back. Jake breaks away and goes to look for Jimmy. Jimmy finds Bo, lets him know what's up, and the two try and hide. Ellie arrives and goes to the Hall of Mirrors looking for her brother, which seems like a weird thing to have at a club. But anyway, it turns out Jake is in there somewhere too.
A Hall of Mirrors in a nightclub.
Yeah. I could see Hall of Mirrored tables for cocaine.
A Hall of Mirrors in a nightclub.
Mm-hmm. Jake tells her that he wasn't the one who attacked her. There's another werewolf out there, and he's not sure who it is, but he thinks it's trying to get to him.
What? More than one werewolf? Let's jump to logic and assume it's Jake.
Has to be.
Because there clearly aren't more than one.
He was born with the curse and knows how to control it, going back to what you were saying before at the car. Jimmy and Bo can hear everything, but can't find them. Jake tells Ellie he loves her, and she's about to take his hand before a werewolf bursts through the mirrors and attacks them.
That must be Jake.
It has to be Jake.
Because he's behind it all.
Yes. Well, they all flee. Ellie makes it out of the party and tells the security guard he has to get everyone out now. The werewolf bursts through a wall. Werewolves bursting through everything, man. And starts massacring people. Scott Baio's there, grabs Ellie and escorts her through the crowd, but she breaks away and goes looking for Jimmy, who has been downed by a flying body. They filmed Panic really well. I could say that.
Yeah. Cool.
Assuming everyone is out, the security gates are lowered, but Jimmy hasn't made it out, and Ellie rolls under the gate before it closes. This place really does look like a museum here, much more than a nightclub. Jimmy and Ellie find each other in no time. Kyle pops up out of nowhere and claims to have no idea what's going on. Ellie tells him to show them his hand, so he raises his right hand, or his left hand, sorry. She wants to see the other one, and he says there's an animal loose, and they have no time for this. So he does know what's going on. So we're led to believe he's the werewolf now?
That's what we're led to believe.
Jimmy and Ellie hear a sound and turn to look. While their backs are turned, Kyle gets picked off. So what was the point of what we just saw?
No point. No point whatsoever. Because
there was no payoff, just him being weird.
And that scene was him being more of an asshole than Jake has been in this entire movie up until this point.
More than Kyle has been in this entire movie. There is no reason for him to act this way. So we have to believe this is the where. Oh no, he's dead.
Yeah.
Running deeper into the club, they enter the diva area where wax mannequins of popular singers are on display on makeshift stages. Jimmy runs from stage to stage, checking behind the curtains for a way out. I found this funny. On one stage, he's confused as to why there are 3 microphones but only 2 mannequins. Just then, a wolfed-out Joni bursts through the curtains and throws him to the ground. There's so much throwing. Turns out she got the curse from Jake. He didn't want to be with her, and if she can't have him, no one can. She then taunts and attacks Ellie and Jimmy. Bad jokes and comedic fighting continue until Ellie sprays Joni in the eyes with pepper spray. It's bad. It's bad, man.
It's so bad.
Joni runs into Jake, who is shocked that she's the other one. She tells him that there's no such thing as safe sex with a werewolf. And if that's the case, then we have to believe that Jake's turned a good number of women into werewolves in Los Angeles. And how is that not addressed?
Are we not supposed to believe that he had a thing with Shannon?
Shannon Elizabeth?
Yeah, Becky.
Yeah.
Maybe not Jenny, Maya, because they were just friends. But if he was with Shannon, Becky...
Well, we know that he's a womanizer.
He should have... No.
And if he's had this since birth, every person he's slept with should now be a vampire, unless he's killed them, in which case, not only is he a werewolf, but he's calculated murders.
Not just that, but growing up, you don't think he'd have doctor's appointments, scraped knees, places where blood would...
He's a werewolf, man. They heal quickly. Come on now.
Okay.
He tries to calm Joni down, saying there are ways to control the curse, but she doesn't want any part of it. She just wants Ellie dead. Jake says she'll have to kill him first. She knees him in the junk and kicks him into the gate, and he's out cold.
And we don't see him again for this entire fight scene from that.
No, but this also reinforces the point made in Monster Squad that the Wolfman does indeed have nards.
Fine, but he was born with the curse, he knows how to control it, and he's taken out of a fight with a kick.
To the junk?
Okay, but he still would have recovered from that.
Yeah. The hunt for Ellie continues. Joni transforms into the worst CG I've seen in a long time. But now I'm confused. Can they just transform into wolves whenever they want to?
I don't know.
Because you would think as soon as that happened, Jake would have wolfed out hard. The police arrive outside. Inside, Joni finds Ellie and Jimmy, who are hiding in the Wolfman display, which is actually pretty funny. They try to split up, but Jimmy is thrown across the room, and Joni runs for Ellie, throwing her as well, and knocking her out. Jimmy grabs a torch and waves it at Joni, trying to keep her away so he can wake up his sister. This does not work, and Jimmy gets thrown again. There is so much throwing in this fight. In this entire movie, the werewolf just throws people.
Yeah.
And, why not just rip them apart? Ellie comes to and grabs the Wolfman cane we saw earlier in the film. She swings it at Joni's face, but she catches it in her mouth and bites it in half. Oh, Joni's just playing with them. That's a line in the movie. Fine. I'll roll with that. Ellie grabs the silver handle of the Wolfman cane and drives it into Joni's throat. It does actually burn her for a bit, but she tears it out as the police arrive inside. For some unknown reason, Joni then runs off as the police start searching. It seems like there's a lot happening here, but nothing at the exact same time.
Agreed.
They're basically laughing at Ellie and Jimmy when they say they're looking for a werewolf, though she may have transformed back into her human form. The police ask for a description, and the two start hurling out insults. And then Joni, still in wolf form, shows herself, screams liar, and then flips them off. Which killed the entire movie for me.
You made it this far.
We've shit on this movie a lot. I do like it, and I'll explain why afterwards. I feel really bad for anybody who's listening to this who this movie's amazing. What are you talking about? I will get to it. I don't want to shit on it. There's just things that have to be said.
Yeah, that's what you want to get to. I want to get to the end of this episode and never think of this movie again.
Well, we're almost there, buddy. The police open fire, and Joni takes a shit ton of gunfire before falling off the ledge, hitting the ground motionless. One cop asks if it's dead, and Jimmy says they have to remove the head from the body. Joni snaps back to life, and another cop shoots her in the head, splattering her brains all over the floor. Jimmy says that should do it. I thought that was funny too.
Sure.
They run back into the Hall of Mirrors to check on Bo, who's alive somehow.
Well, he only got thrown, you see.
He got plowed over. He didn't even get thrown. Joni ran right through him.
Fine.
Ellie goes to check on Jake, and she can't find him. The siblings go home, which I highly doubt would be allowed at this point. There are a lot of dead people in that club, and the police are confused as to why a woman's body has replaced the animal they killed. I'm pretty sure they'd be there until at least the morning, right?
Oh, yeah. They would be interrogated, maybe taken downtown to give statements like this.
Yeah. They just go home. Well, the curse should be lifted by now, since they killed Joni. The house has been trashed by Zipper. Ellie's worried about Jake, but Jimmy reminds her that he was the cause of all this in the first place. He goes to the basement to check the circuit breaker to get the lights working again. She stays in the kitchen to start cleaning. They both feel themselves beginning to change, I guess, at this point.
I think that's what it's meant when they show the veins.
Yeah. But neither of them react to it immediately. They're all like, this is strange. And then just go back to what they were doing. With the lights back on, Ellie continues cleaning. She picks up the cake server, but her hand is burned by the silver. The front door is wide open now. Jake has arrived, obviously, because the door is swinging back and forth. He and Ellie hug, and Ellie drops to the floor in pain. Jake explains that it's okay and that she's changing. He came back for her, this way they can be together. And Ellie wants none of it. Jake tells her the only way to get out of this is if she kills him. It's the only way to end the curse. And he seems like he really does want to spend his life with her, but as soon as he's rejected, he turns into a complete fucking asshole.
Yeah, I didn't buy this heel turn at all.
No. Jake tells Ellie he's going to kill Jimmy.
Why?
Ellie attacks... There's only room for one alpha male, is the quote.
Cool.
But that doesn't mean there's only one male in a wolf pack.
Yeah, there can be a beta.
It's strength in numbers, jackass. Ellie attacks with the cake server, but is foiled and thrown yet again. The two fight, and then Jimmy hits Jake in the face with a shovel, which was awesome. The CG in this whole scene is fucking the shits. He gets up, but Jimmy runs away along the ceiling. More Jake and Ellie fighting. She grabs a cake server, but he hits it away. Jimmy returns and jumps on Jake, pulling him off his sister and biting him in the shoulder. Ellie grabs the cake server and stabs Jake in the heart with it. Jake's writhing in pain on the ground, and Ellie picks up the shovel and decapitates him. Jake's corpse then bursts into flame and quickly turns to ash. Okay, since we saw different versions of this movie, the decapitation, do you see it in your version? Or is it just implied and then you see the head roll away?
It was implied. I didn't see the actual decapitation.
Yeah. That was in the version I saw too, but in the uncensored one, you see the decapitation. Brooke shows up with Zipper. Jimmy's confused about how she knows where he lives, and Bo appears saying that he told her. Well, isn't that nice? Jimmy asks to walk her home, and she kisses him in front of Bo, which is really strange. And I'm assuming there was enough time for Bo to talk with the police, then go to Brooke's house, explain what happened, tell her he's actually gay, then she finds Zipper, and then Bo tells her where Jimmy lives so that she can walk Zipper home. But the last time that Bo saw Zipper, it tried to kill him. So I'm sure there's still some worry in his head about that. But it all works out just fine?
I don't know.
Jimmy then asks Bo if he's coming along with them, which is super fucking awkward. The movie ends with Ellie and Zipper going inside and the three teens walking down the street and into the night. Roll credits. Woo!
Let's take a quick second to hear an ad from our friend Tim and take a breather.
Yeah, I need a break from this one, bud.
Knights and Nerds is not just an actual play D&D podcast with an original campaign being played by a group of friends who tolerate each other. It's also a podcast where I, the Dungeon Master, talk about how I'm adapting to the choices the players make, as well as revealing to you, the audience, the complex story and deadly twists that I have in store for my players. Find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or at knightsandnerds.com.
And we're back.
All right, guys. Normally we talk budget right now and gross, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. I really want to start with the ratings that we see from websites. So IMDb, we have a solid 5%, 5 out of 10, sorry, 50%. Rotten Tomatoes, we've got 16% on the tomato meter and a 30% for the audience score. Sandro, do you agree with those?
No.
Less for you?
Oh, yeah.
And there might be a reason why. So when we looked into the budget, it was stated that it was between 38 million and 75 million. And that seemed like a big jump, and I wanted to know why. So this film was in development hell, then into production, and then into production hell, and then on hold, and was released 2 years after they started filming. So they started shooting, or I should say, a lot of this info is from Wikipedia and IMDb trivia. The film started shooting with a $38 million budget, and the script and production issues caused filming to stall and then start up over a year later, with rewrites and scheduling issues leading to recasting roles and other characters being completely written out of the script altogether. So we were talking about how great the cast is. Well, the actors that they cut were Skeet Ulrich, Mandy Moore, Omar Epps, Elena Douglas, Heather Langenkamp, Scott Foley, Robert Forster, and Corey Feldman. I want to know who these characters would have played. I really want to know what the original movie was like. It was almost done filming, at 90% actually complete, but Bob Weinstein, one of the producers, had the movie rewritten and reshot. They took Rick Baker on for the production, amazing special effects artist, then fired him and threw away the effects that he had done. K&B were hired on for the redo, and then a lot of their practical effects they made were not used in favor of doing it in CG. Film went from being rated R down to PG-13. Craven and the cast were completely confused and furious about this whole thing. But what I found really interesting was how annoyed and vocal Eisenberg was about the whole thing. I've got a 3-paragraph quote here. The first, that's great, man. It's great. This makes me like him a lot more.
All right.
The first movie was more interesting and provocative. I don't know why it wasn't working. Now that we know the behind the scenes of the Weinstein Company, it makes sense as to why it was so chaotic. They filmed 90% of the bigger budget version. The first movie was this splashy thing. The second version was definitely cutting corners in a lot of different ways. And the plot, I thought it was so stupid. I thought the plot was so cliche. They made us brother and sister? The things that they kept from the original film were little snippets, like a car rolling down a hill. They kept that shot. The crazy part is that after we filmed the whole second version of the film, we had to go back for a third reshoot, which lasted about 20 days. That's like the length of an independent movie. And then we had to go back a fourth time for like 10 days, and they made shirts that said Cursed 4 back for more. In 2018, the COO of Dimension said that all of Craven's footage that he shot still exists. That means there was a chance that we would have been able to see his original version of what Cursed was supposed to be, but the person who owns all the footage just wants nothing to do with it, but seems to want to hang on to it for some reason. So yeah, knowing all of this, I totally understand why this movie is as bad as it is, because you look at the cast, all of those actors have done so many good things and so few bad things that there is no possible way that it wasn't cuts and horrible editing that made everybody seem so flat, no character interesting, no plot point interesting, and I feel like everybody involved in this movie on screen, and not just on screen actually, let's take Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson as well as the director and writer. I'm sure it really stunted their careers. Craven even said that he would never do a movie just for the money again, because yeah, he got paid for basically 2.5 movies, but he could have also in that time made 2.5 other movies and made just as much money and be proud of the work that he did. So you got Christina Ricci, who's fantastic, fell flat. Joshua Jackson, I love him to death. Not always like the leading role. I would never always cast him in such. I think he is capable of doing so, but as a supporting character, he's always great. Jesse Eisenberg, I've never liked him before. I love him in this movie. There's so many good actors.
He's done some good stuff before, and I mean, he really helped carry things like Zombieland. Sure, that was a lot of Woody Harrelson too, but he's done some good stuff.
I've never liked him before.
Fair.
Ever. And that's obviously just a personal preference, but I've never liked him in another role like this.
Okay.
So, knowing some of the horror story that was the making of the movie, do you see why we ended up with what we ended up with?
Oh, I never questioned why.
Okay.
Don't forgive what it actually is.
They should have taken Craven's name off of it.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's not the movie he made, so why is his name on it?
Because it is the movie that they forced him to make after they let him make the one he wanted to.
That wasn't a literal question.
That's fine. You keep your rhetorical questions to yourself.
All right, I'm sorry.
All right, do you want to get into some... Well, actually, let me just say, it started at $38 million for the budget. It ended up being $75 million. It made less than $30 million.
The saddest part is if you just hear it cost $75 million and you saw this movie, that's sad.
Very sad. Very, very sad. But you think, too, they had to recast a good chunk of the movie.
Yeah.
So and all the people that were in the first one got paid. And then they had to pay a slew of new actors.
Not to mention the exorbitant amount of money they spent on these fantastic special effects.
3 times. They did the effects 3 different times. Anyway, what do you say we get to some awards here, buddy?
Sounds good, man. Who did you have for worst performance?
I think you might contest this. I say Michael Rosenbaum as Kyle.
I'm not probably going to contest any of your awards.
He is a talented actor, and he came across as just not giving a shit about this role.
I think that's a pretty fair statement for much of the cast.
You can see frustration in the cast, for sure. I really just saw him not caring about anything, and he was just there for the paycheck. I think people like Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg as the leads were at least trying to do well, and he was just there.
Maybe you're going to disagree with me then.
Who's your worst performance?
Christina Ricci.
She's not the best, that's for sure.
I
didn't mind her, but I obviously see her not being best performance, that's for sure.
I will clarify that part of that decision is based on screen time and performance versus expectation rather than just performance.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that if you were to take a scale of every, actor's like kind of average performances and put them next to their performance in this movie, the difference for her is probably by far the largest.
Mm-hmm. I can go along with that.
All right. So I do best?
Yeah, you start off with best now.
I don't think you're going to be surprised by this one because, I love the guy. It's Joshua Jackson.
He is amazing. I love Josh Jackson.
I will say this. The only reason that you might not like Jake, as in the character he plays, is because of the ridiculous heel turn that he seemingly takes for no reason with no motivation. But that's not his acting. That's literally the script he was given. His performance is probably the most natural and genuine. And even if you listen back to this episode, you mentioned in parts of it where his dialogue came off as the most natural.
Yeah.
Who did you have?
Jesse Eisenberg.
I can't argue that. He's up there.
I found him incredibly enjoyable. I think he had the best character development in the entire film. I was shocked, actually. I did not expect him to be my best in this movie, but I was very impressed with him. I thought he did very well.
Okay. So what was your most memorable line?
It was from Ellie. I mean, it's kind of a throwaway line, but it really stuck with me in that saying, everybody's cursed, Jimmy. It's called life.
It's a little dark.
I didn't find there were any real meaningful lines in this movie.
Yeah, see, you and I went in different directions with this one, because I took a most memorable line for its ridiculousness.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And you actually referenced it in the episode. It was when Joni said, I guess there's no such thing as safe sex with a werewolf.
It's pretty funny.
It's a lot of things. One thing it's not is good.
Oh, it's definitely not good.
But that's what makes it memorable. Hence the title of this award. Okay. Memorable.
Most memorable scene?
It very much mirrors the level of ridiculousness as my line, and it was when Werewolf Joni gives Ellie the middle finger for insulting her.
That's a good one. That did stick in my mind, too.
I mean, you said...
It is absolutely fucking awful.
You said it was the part of the movie that killed it for you. Clearly, you're going to remember that.
You do. You definitely do. I had something that I remembered more.
Okay.
And that was the fight at the end of the movie. And what keeps that fight in my mind, I should say. It started off with Jimmy on the ceiling and Jake spinning back up to his feet. And there were while there was some horrible CG, there was still some decent effects, like the silver burning, and the decapitation, which was better in the uncensored version. But that whole fight scene still stands out to me when I think of the movie more than anything else. The reason I remember the flipping off scene is because that's when I realized that nobody cared about this movie anymore.
Yeah, it's almost like she was flipping off the audience.
Yeah. She's like, you're still watching? You fucks.
You made it this far?
I got money for this. What did you get?
We paid money for it.
All right, most memorable kill.
I guess that would be you to start off then, based on the order.
I would say Shannon Elizabeth.
Dude, that's almost an award by default. There is a kill count of 5 in this movie.
Mm. Oh, wait, most memorable kill. Scott Baio's career.
It was dead long before this. He was already He was already being pushed off for Carrot Top. But yeah, it's without a doubt Shannon Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I mean, like
great.
I said, there's 4 kill scenes. I didn't get the decapitation in the scene that I saw. Right? You take that away. The elevator kill for Maya, however you pronounce it, it's off camera. Yeah. You just see the werewolf reach in and the screen goes dark. So right there.
Oh, in the uncensored one, she gets shredded.
Okay. So again, I guess a shortcoming for that for me was not seeing.
Yeah.
But I see the Shannon Elizabeth one. So what cut did I watch?
I don't know.
Because I know I saw the Shannon Elizabeth. I wrote it down for my awards.
Yeah, I have no idea.
All right. I don't know. Whatever.
Now, question for you.
Okay.
Knowing that they filmed 90% of what Craven and Williamson wanted, and apparently all of the other cast wanted, knowing it went through 3 rewrites and reshoots afterwards, would you consider watching a Wes Craven cut of this movie if it were ever released?
I think curiosity alone and almost a desire to redeem what should have been a good movie on paper, I would.
Yes.
Yes, I would.
You nailed it. It feels like this movie needs to be redeemed because everybody who stuck around were committed to it for the most part, and they just got fucked.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see Rick Baker's werewolves. I think he would have done a fantastic job. Honestly, the practical werewolf effects that we saw on screen, I didn't think were terrible. It's just there was so much CG that just was rough, real rough.
Yep.
Craven's a great director. Williamson is a great writer. Williamson knows how to write for Josh Jackson. Craven knows how to direct. Like, I don't know. It's almost embarrassing that something so good, potentially so good, could end up like this.
And yet here we are.
And if you're curious about recommendations, yes, I recommend this movie 100%.
What? No!
It's so good for a laugh. It's terrible if you're trying to sit back and analyze it. Don't ever fucking do that. That's like shooting yourself in the knee.
I'm vetoing your recommendation and saying it's a no from both of us.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. No. It's a yes.
No.
It is. 100%. This is a movie to watch with friends. Have a couple of beers and just rip it apart. Because it doesn't take itself seriously anymore. It can't. It's too bastardized.
This isn't even a watch with friends movie. It's in this middle purgatory between so bad it's good and good movie that no, just don't watch it. Unless
I think this movie would do really well if it were paired with a documentary about how bad the movie is.
You know when you watch this movie? When you hear that they're bringing out the Craven cut. Until then, stay far away from it.
I'm sorry, man.
That's 2 in a row, man.
I didn't think you would hate it this much.
2 in a row.
Okay.
All right, man. That's the end of that. What are you going to torture me with next week?
I can't torture anybody with this movie.
Okay.
It's 1984's The Return of the Living Dead.
In the dark of the night, something strange is going on.
You see that movie, Night of the Living Dead? Sure. They ship those bodies. Well, say hello.
The dead have risen from the grave.
Mister, there's 100 of those things out there.
How many did you say?
100?
And now the question is, how do we get them back into the ground?
Bert, Frank, we have a little problem. 4 left, 10 right.
It's all over everything! Stupid asshole! Watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job! Like this job!
Medical science is baffled.
And it's a puzzle, because technically, you're not alive.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
How do you kill something that's already dead?
Well, how do I know, Fred? I don't know. Let me think.
It's not a bad question, Bert.
In that movie, they destroyed the brain to kill him. Is that what they did?
The brains, right!
Brains! Brain! The brain! I hit the brain! Oh! Get it off! 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 Get it off!
The military is nervous.
Usual crap.
The police are confused.
Send more cops.
It worked in the movie! Well, it ain't working now. Brain the movie line!
It's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question, Bert.
The return of the living dead.
All right. Well, that should be a better week regardless. Until then, have a good one.
All the best, guys.